All right. Good evening. Happy Mother's Day and all that fun stuff, guys. It is time to do another Duckling reveal. It's me, Gregory Puff. Ailmarkin's hanging out with me. I'm going to be the
Sure
runner
am.
tonight. Huh?
You sure? I said I sure am hanging out, and you sure are the runner.
Yes, that is right. I am going to be the runner, and Ailmarkin is going to be talking about what I do.
And we'll be taking some guidance from the chat when we try to decipher what exactly you do later, too. So, that's how we're going to do things tonight.
Yeah. So whenever Dark Moon is our host, by the way, which I think he was probably going to do do the introductions, but we kind of talked over him. So he's going to go ahead and pull up the flags, and we're going to look at what we're doing today. Guys, what's happening? What's the plan today? What is week 2? What are we focusing on?
So week 2, we don't want to do such, like a really strong deviation from week 1, because, when you're starting to learn the game, you still want to kind of learn your basics. Looking back at the leaderboards, I think everyone across the board seemed to have a really strong week 1. Not going to spoil the week 1 seed in case anybody ever wants to go back and run it on their own accord, but the way it was kind of set up and the way things landed, it made for a pretty quick seed. So we want to kind of build on that for week 2 and maybe change a couple things up, add a couple of new things into the mix. So the majority of the flags for week 2 are going to be pretty similar or exactly the same as week 1. I think there's only about 7 or 8 that are just a little bit different that we've either turned on or tweaked just a hair. So we'll go through those and yeah. No,
yeah, sorry. Yeah, we're going to go on ahead and just go over them real quick. Same as last time. We're going to go over the flags. We're going to talk about what's shuffled. We're going to talk about what's incentivized and so forth and so on. So we're going to start with the things that are shuffled. So as you can see on the far left there, you've got your shops and RNG. First off, our shops are shuffled. Nothing crazy going on. You just take the items that are currently in shops, weapons, gear, and items, and you just move them to other shops. That's pretty much it. Anything that normally ends up in a shop will end up in other shops. Your magic levels, that stuff will also be randomized. So you can take something that could be a level 1 magic spell and that may end up level 8. You can take something very powerful like a Quad X, Ace 3, or a Nuke, or a Fade, and that can end up, somewhere around level 1, 2, or 3, depending on, how the seed rolls. Excuse me, the RNG table. In the original game, there were a certain amount of steps between each encounter. This completely randomizes it so that maybe you'll come out and there'll be like one step right off the hard reset and you'll get an encounter, and then there'll be like a million steps before your next encounter. You just never know how that works. Moving over to the far right over here, you'll see our enemies. This is basically how all the enemies are going to be shuffled around. So enemy scripts. Certain enemies have certain scripts. Imps always attack, and cats throw out fire 2s and slows and stuff. Those scripts are just going to get basically flipped around and randomized. Then you've got your skills and spells. That basically means that fire 2 and that slow that the man cat has is going to be shuffled onto a different, and not so much that order. The fire 2 could be like the 8th spell and like the imp's spell list. You just don't know. It's just all completely randomized. Enemy status attacks. So you've got your poison touch, your stone touch, your death touch. All that stuff is going to be randomized as well. So 2 enemies that have stone touch, you'll have 2 enemies that will have stone touch that aren't those 2 enemies. Same thing with the sorcerers that have the death touch. That one enemy will get shuffled somewhere else, and then you'll find a random enemy in the game, whether it be imps or grimps or whatever. It could potentially have death touch, and it'll pretty much ruin your whole life. Enemy unrunnable formations, of course, that just randomizes your unrunnable formations. So in the normal game, there are quite a few random unrunnable formations that aren't bosses, like zombie Ds, zombie bulls, zombie Ds, of course, worms, so forth and so on. Those will get shuffled onto different formations. Lastly, down here, you've got your enemy surprise bonus. So things like shadows that typically ambush a lot may not ambush as much. That'll get shuffled onto a different enemy pack. Shuffle encounter rarity just means that certain encounters will be less rare than they are in the vanilla game. So you have enemy formations numbered 1 through 8. 8 being the rarest. I think they come up in 3 and 64, somewhere in that general area, or 1 and 64, I'm sorry. And there'll be obviously less rare than that. And then, of course, we are shuffling all the spike tiles in the game, as well as using random formations. So instead of your just one eye, your one Agama, your one zombie D, your one phantom, we could get like crazy random formations. We could get like a bunch of imps and grimps. We could also get three eyes and, three Agamas and a red D. You just don't know what's going to happen until we roll the seed. And then after that, Warmech will be in his normal place. Encounter number 7 on the Bridge of Destiny. And that's all I got as far as the stuff that's shuffled up top. I'm going to let Ale take over treasures and incentives for me.
Yep. So in that top section, everything same as last week with the exception of the spike tiles and the random formations like Grigley touched on. Down here in treasures and incentives, looks pretty familiar to last week. You just see a couple more boxes checked. So just hitting them off real quick for anyone who wants to play at home. Maybe read back of this. There was that Google Doc that was been linked over in chat. This just kind of has the quick notes that I typed up for everything earlier today if you want something written so you can kind of see them there. But so we've got the treasure shuffle on, so all treasures normally in the game, they're still in the game, they're just somewhere else. Might be in a different box. Hey, it's RNG, might even be in the same box. The better trap treasure is on, so certain trap tiles are more likely to have better treasure behind them. A list of tiles and what constitutes better gear is also included in the bottom of that particular Google Doc. The main NPC items, so things like the bridge, the loot, the ship, the rod, the canoe, and the cube, and the bottle are all added into the pool to be shuffled around. The fetch quest rewards, so the rewards from the crown, the crystal, the herb, the TNT, the adamant, the bottom, the slab turn-ins, they're all randomized. So vanilla game, you turn in the bottle, you get the Oxyale. Tonight you turn in the bottle, we might get the defense sword, because that's one of our items that's incentivized later. We won't know until we turn it in, kind of like what Greg was saying, it's up to the seed to kind of show us, how things pan out. Past that, we start with both a bridge and a canal. For our incentive locations tonight, all the main NPCs, so the King, Princess Sarah, Vicky the Pirate, Sage Lucan, Sardin the Waterfall Robot, will all give us an item from our incentive pool. For the fetch quest NPCs, so they'll also give you an item from the incentive pool when you turn in their required item. With Ice Cave, Ordeals, Titans, Volcano, and Canary locked, so those are all the locations for turning in, or for finding a item from our incentive pool. So for those who don't know, the Ice Cave box is going to be the vanilla floater box. For the Ordeals box, it's going to be the vanilla tail box. Titan's Trove isn't really one of the vanilla locations, but we've made it one, and it's going to be the far left box in that room of 4 boxes for the Titan. The Volcano incentive box is the far left-hand box. Well, it's really the only left-hand room box on Carrie's floor. So it's the one that's guarded by the 2 spike tiles. And what those spike tiles are, we'll see tonight when Greg goes to that particular box. And then the last incentive location will be the Canaria locked box, which is the vanilla TNT location. As for our items tonight, obviously our main progression items, so everything we know we need to beat the game is incentivized, so the loot, the key, the rod, the Oxyale, the chime, and the cube. Our other quest items are also incentivized tonight, which includes the crown, the crystal, the herb, the TNT, the ruby, the bottle, the slab, and the adamant. The floater is also incentivized. The canoe is also incentivized. The ship and the canal are also incentivized. Take note, though, that because we have a free canal, it doesn't really impact our number of key items there. So we'll either find the ship in a box or we'll find it from an NPC. The tail is also going to be there in the incentive pool. And then for gear, we kind of expanded a little bit over last week. So last week was just the Masamune. That was incentivized. This week we've added in the defense sword and the power gauntlet. So 3 pieces of gear in the pool tonight. And then with the change to that, as well as our extra location, we now have 2 loose items. We may not need 2 loose items, but they're out there.
Yep. So we're going to go ahead and scroll it down just a tiny bit more. We could talk about gold real quick, but obviously there's nothing really to talk about here. Chaos Rush and free orbs, that's just basically, you don't have to kill fiends, you just go right into Temple of Fiends whenever you're ready to go. I think Chaos Rush just means you don't have to have the loot or the key. or no, the shortened Topher means you don't need the loot or the key, but I'll get there when we get there. Treasure hunt is something we may or may not do later on. Basically, just turn it on, and it gives you, instead of having to light up 4 orbs, you have to look for 16 shards, pieces, espers, whatever the game decides to call it when you roll the seeds. If you click extra treasure, you'll have to do anywhere between, I want to say 20-ish and about like 35 or somewhere in that general area. So just basically extra treasures you have to look for. In those particular treasure hunts, the fiends still give you shards. So, for instance, if you kill Lich, or if you light up Lich's orb, the Earth orb, or the Fire orb, you will get 2 shards for that. And if you light up Kraken and Tia's orb, you will get 4 orbs for each of those. And the reason why I say light up the orb is because in case we decide to shuffle the actual fiend into those random dungeons, you still have to light up that particular orb. So even if you kill Tiamat in Earth Cave, you're still only going to get two shards for killing Tia because you're lighting up the Earth orb. That makes any sense. Lastly, over at Temple of Fiends, you've got alternative final boss. There's just 4 different types of bosses. Again, we're not really using that today, but I figured I'd go over it. And then shortened Topher just means that instead of doing all of Topher, you just have 1 room. All 7 chests are going to be there. And then you can include Fiend Paths as well, which you see clicked on there. All right. If you want to go on ahead and move down, we've got our maps and rounding. We are not using entrance shuffle and towns or any of that stuff. But as you can see, entrances mean, well, if you go into Castle Canaria, it could send you to Earth Cave. And that would be, if you decide to shuffle the floors, then yeah, it could take you to any floor in any dungeon, and then all those floors will be shuffled around until you get to the bottom of said dungeon. Lastly, of course, towns. Those will get shuffled into those different openings as well, or different towns until you hit the mix all entrances together, and then that'll just make everything bonkers, as they say. You got your isolated map edits. So one of the main ones that we like to use a lot is the Castle Ordeal pillars. So typically in the game, you would always go into the southernmost pillar in Castle of Ordeals to go through progression, but we randomize it. So now you have to figure out how to get through ordeals every single time you go in there. Titan Trove moves your Titan from the spot that he normally lives in into kind of the middle of that cave so that he blocks the path to those treasure chests. So therefore making the ruby a required item to get that Titan Trove incentive chest down there. Zozo Melmon just puts undead enemies on the desert tiles in Zozo, as well as pirates could be in there. Lefanish Hospitality gives you clinics and an inn in Lefane, so it's not so much a terrible find to find Lefane. If you have like Town Shuffle on, you can actually save and bring people back to life there. And then of course you've got your Confused Old Men, which is just, you know, it makes the sages and Crescent Lake move around. They're just instead of being in a circle, they just go blah blah blah, and they move all over the place. All right, more map edits. As you see, we have open progression. That is a flag that it typically is on all the time. It's very rare that we turn this flag off. What open progression does is it gives you a path from Canaria to Dwarf Cave, so it kind of breaks up the mountain system over there to the west of Canaria. It also breaks up a river system path between Ice Cave and Volcano. It also gives you docks in the northern continent. So you'll get a dock right below the Mirage Desert, and you'll get a ship dock below Onrak. So those are the specific map edits that constitute as open progression, whereas extended open progression gives you a dock below the Ryukon Desert, which is the desert where you take the floater to get the airship, so that you don't need the canoe to get there. You just need the ship and the floater to get the airship. And it also opens up the river system between Dwarf Cave and Northwest Castle, so that you don't need the canoe to walk from Dwarf Cave, obviously, down to Northwest Castle or Astos' Castle. Lastly, you got your routing on. Early start item means you don't need to do your vanilla stuff and kill Lich to get the Sarda item. Sorry, not Lich, the Vampire to get the Sarda item. You don't need to kill Lich to get the Sage's item out of Crescent Lake, and you don't need the Crown to go into Ordeals. And I'm going to let Ale take the rest of this over.
Yep, so the biggest change that we've made from the first week is going to be down here in the scale section. So everything looks kind of like last week with the exception of one lovely little box. That's that little check box right there next to the 100% next to boss stats. So that's called a clamp. What that does is that guarantees that the low end of all bosses will always be at their vanilla levels. So Chaos is always going to have at least 2,000 HP in these flags. He might roll up to 3,000 depending on where along that line he scale or that along that slider his randomization falls. But that's for all the bosses. So you can kind of start maybe gaining a little bit of strategy to your party comp or to your fights now, and that's something that I'm sure Greg will show off when we get there a little bit later on. But aside from that, like I said, that's the biggest change. Everything else, prices, it's either going to be 1/3 the original or up to 300% of the original. Regular enemy stats anywhere from 67 to 150%. The EXP and gold boost, we're going to start at 2.5 and get a 250 extra gold per kill, and then we're going to get an extra 10% per key item that we have. Encounters are a little bit lower than vanilla, 0.6 for the overworld, 0.8 for dungeons, so hopefully overworld routing is a little bit easier. The rest of the little tech boxes there, so like wrapping things and scaling the stats and whatnot, that's all turned off. And then as we pop on down here, party comp, you see everything's open. You can totally freeform your party just like last week. We're not pigeonholing anybody into, certain either party comps or, restricting who you can roll with quite yet. And that may or may not come later. As they say, soon, trademark.
Right, soon.
So past that, Tavern Roads in there, we might hit on that a little bit later on in Duckling Seeds, nothing really big to worry about yet. Down below the party comp area of the randomizer, we've got all our conveniences. They're all turned on, so that's just things to make your life a little bit easier. No party shuffle, so we're not going to kick, poison party member to the back of your party and rearrange your order. Speed hacks are on. Identify treasure so you know what's in a box if your armor or weapons inventory is full. Enable dash because nobody likes walking at vanilla speeds. Buy 10 items because nobody wants to sit there and buy 99 heal pots one at a time. Change unrunnable from run to wait, so now you know if you can't get away from a fight. And critical hit count display just so you can see your crits. And then all the bug fixes and rebalances, and it's all the same stuff as last week. Basically, just stuff that kind of makes the game more fair. Maybe gets it more into the devs felt the spirit of the game was going to be about. Nothing quite on yet in experimental, so no proc gen waterfall, no NPC guillotine, no disabling of saves, anything like that. So from here, we've gone through the flags, and if we want to scroll all the way back up Dark Moon, we're going to go through and we're going to roll a seed for Greg tonight since he's going to be our runner. So that way we can tell him what to do tonight. So we're going to go through and click that new button. That'll let us get ourselves a new seed that we want to run with. We're going to send that to Greg so he knows what seed to play tonight on stream. And if you're playing along at home, once you've hit that new button half a dozen times or however many times you want, you just hit that little randomize button there, and that'll randomize the ROM for you. So we're going to switch over. If you give us just a second, Greg's going to get off this little teasery treasure hunt mode title screen. He's going to randomize his ROM. He's going to fire up the seed for tonight with the flags and the seed that we just talked about. And we're going to see what we have in store for us tonight.
Yeah. So I am currently generating my seed, and pretty simple stuff. You just hit the randomize button. I think we're working on getting that changed to generate ROM or something a little more intuitive so that people aren't so confused. Like, hey, what does randomize mean? I thought that would randomize the game. No, that actually generates your ROM.
That's actually on the beta site right now, Greg.
Oh, it is on the beta site. No way.
Yep. Beta site. Instead of randomize, it now says generate ROM.
That is incredible news.
And I believe that's Jat. We can have to thank for that. He did that for us a couple days ago, and I think everybody threw him a 3 cheers hip hip hooray celebration in general.
That's awesome. So I'm sure it's already switched over to me, or it's going to be switched over to me soon. That's sorry, I'm looking at my chat right now, realizing that I'm completely muted over on that end. I'm just going to kind of get everything together, and then I'm going to let you talk about what's obviously happening on screen. What are we rolling with again?
Yeah, so we did Fighter Rainbow last week, so we figured we'd throw out another usually pretty, new player-friendly party comp, especially with these flags. So we're going to run with a Fighter, a Thief, a Red Mage, and a Black Mage tonight. We did Fighter Rainbow
so
last
whenever
week, so
the screen pulls up, obviously you can talk about hashes, and you can talk about seed being under development build.
Yep. So we've got, obviously, our starting menu for the game here. Respawn rate 8 if you play on anything but that, I pity you. I think that's pretty much like the vanilla rate for the randomizer. Underneath that, though, you can see we're on build 3.0.0 for the particular randomizer build itself from the main live site. Development build's just kind of in there because, when things get pushed to beta to live, some things kind of just maybe don't get unchecked on the back end. So don't worry about that. But we've got our seed listed over there. Then underneath that, we had our lovely hash. So if you're playing along at home tonight, just make sure your hash matches up with what you're seeing on the video there. So Greg's going to go ahead and get his party set up. He's going to do his traditional naming, I think, set up here. He's I'm sure he's feeling a little hurt because we told him not to run a black belt tonight. Save that for a little bit later on. We don't want to quite throw people off the deep end and force anyone to do black belt strats if they're not comfy with it. So, but yes, we've got our Fighter, we've got our Thief, we've got our Red Mage and Black Mage. So right now, Greg is hoping for really good Red Magic early in the game. And we're going to see what he's blessed with tonight. So runs right to that White Magic shop. So right now, Expert and Life are the only 2 spells that his Red Mage can learn. I'm sure he's really happy to see that Life Magic there in that 3rd slot. If and when Greg promotes with this party, if he really wants to learn A-Rub, he can. Unfortunately, that A-Mute, he's never going to get. And then Black Magic is totally wide open to both his Red Mage and his Black Mage. So stop, maybe. Sleep, maybe. Definitely. Ice 2 is a fantastic early level or early game sweeper. And I'm sure Greg is going to be making I'm hoping he'll show off some Quad X usage tonight, especially when we start fighting some of the Fiends. Just because Quad X can be, I don't want to say your best friend for Fiend fights, but it can definitely cut a Fiend fight in half, especially if you have a pretty nasty one. So we're going to check our item shop. Nothing really there, hoping for cheap save items, but not happening. Now we're going to make our way all the way up here to Temple of Fiends. Really nice run so far. So that's something I'm sure Greg's already thinking in his head, like, hey, once I find some cheap housing items, I'm going to maybe make use of this particular run here. So Ice 2 doing some work on Bones. It's to be expected. Bones are, brittle. They don't have a whole lot going on HP-wise. We know we have 2 loose, so it's always a good idea to check the boxes here in Temple of Fiends. You might luck out with a loose early. If anything, you might get a little bit of cash like we got tonight. That'll definitely make some of the early spell shopping and gear shopping easier, depending on where some of our nicer gear falls. And then we're going to see what Garland's got for us tonight. So just going right to Quad X. So with the particular scaling we have, we know Garland would always have less than 300 HP, which means that there's no reason to cast anything else on him if you have Quad X. He's going to immediately go down to Quad X, so definitely shortens up a fight.
And Quad X is a power word death spell, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, so draws a lot from D&D. So we got a ruby from the king and we got the ship from the princess. So we can already hop on the ocean with our free canal. Greg, if you wanted to, could immediately go over and turn in the ruby, talk to the Titan and Sarda. I don't expect him to do that tonight with 2 loose and possibly questionable, nasty overworld enemies. We'll find out once we start traversing, I'm sure. Just doing a little bit of shopping. Nothing really to speak home about or write home about with the armor shop here. Wood armor was kind of your nicest thing. If you're really early in the game, you're really hoping for, maybe some really cheap chain armor for that fighter and that red mage. Even really cheap iron armor would be nice to pick up for the fighter at this point.
I'm a terrible tracker. I already missed what the 2 royals gave us.
Oh, that's right.
It was Ruby and Chip.
Yep, there you go. Ruby and Chip.
Thank you.
You are welcome.
All right, so we're going to go and see what the pirates have for us tonight. So having that level 1 sweeper will definitely make this easy. Typically, when you come into Provoca, a lot of runners, if they already have a sweeper in level 1, there's really not a whole lot of need to check the magic shop, especially because you'll get a nice chunk of money from the pirates here. And he gives us the canoe, so pretty much with our extended open progression on, the entire world's open to us right now by boat. I'm sure Greg doesn't want a boat everywhere, so he's going to hope for that early floater. But at least we know we have access to pretty much all our incentive locations at the moment. Steel armor is nice to keep in mind for later, depending on how soon we find those 2 loose items and what kind of other gear we find at the time. But the big pickup there is chain, because that'll help that red mage stay up. It'll help that fighter stay up. Greg grabbing some supplies, heal pots, pure pots. I'm sure he's kind of grinning about those 77 gold cabins. Could still hold out maybe for 10s before we start, splurging on them, but you never know what we have there. So we got Mute, Harm 4, Alit, Cure 3. So Cure 3 is not a bad level 2 spell. Black Magic, Bane, Ice 3, Saber. So Sleep, probably never going to get used. Saber, maybe if you're going to lean on that red mage, but I think the 2 big pickups in the Black Magic shop are going to be that Ice 3 and that Bane. And then it looks like Greg's probably going back for... Ooh, grabbing Harm 4, I think he did.
Hey, I like the Cure 3, but Harm 4, in case I run into a bunch of undeads or have to go to Ice Cave, Ice 3 is not going to really do much of anything, especially Ice 2 and Ice 3 aren't going to really do anything in either that place or Earth Cave. So
yeah, and that's
good.
That's really good looking ahead, too. So Harm 4 actually has the same damage rolls as Fade does, so it's pretty much your endgame undead killing spell. And having your red mage have access to that when the only elemental magic you've seen so far being ice, like Greg said, definitely worth picking up and checking out. So we're going to keep on following our fetch quest here. So we're going to go ahead and park over here at Melmond, save there. We're going to walk and see what Titan has. Still a pretty decent run right there off the start of the encounter table. So we should be able to get in and out of Titans without having a whole lot of fights.
I could just not do certain things you're about to see in 20 seconds.
Let's see. So we're gonna use a pure pot. We're gonna use a cabin. We're gonna walk somewhere maybe. We're gonna do some some fancy footwork down in the mountains, dodging some boulders that probably fell on Greg's screen. All right, and let's see. So tonight, Sard is gonna hand over the adamant. So we've got another fetch quest item to follow up on here.
Touch.
And then so. Gonna pop back in here. Greg's, I'm sure, gonna remember that Titans is incentivized, so he's gonna pop on down there, open up those boxes, and we'll see what we have going on there. He's making use of those cabins and doing a power cycle just because he's trying to avoid as many overworld encounters as he can. So opal bracelet, opal armor, and a crown. So we got another fetch quest that we can knock out here.
You're about to be blown away by this RNG that I just got.
Exceptional. So Gur-Ogres doing Gur-Ogre things. Oh, look. I believe that's stone poison. No, I'm sorry. That's not stone poison. That's toxic. But hey, at least it didn't hit any of your guys. It's like the polar opposite of Greg Luck. Normally it's, whenever something goes out that can kill his party, it kills everybody.
It really was lucky. I'm going to have to point out Chad Pulse essay saying that was totally lucky. Yeah, on a level 5 party, that is definitely lucky. You do not see
absolutely.
Toxic miss all of those guys.
So where are you heading to now, Greg?
Huh?
So where are you heading to now?
I was thinking about going to Elfland so I can finally check out some magic now that I have a little bit of money.
Yeah, it's a good plan.
Hey, look at this. Well, not look at this because you can't see it yet, but...
Oh, we'll see it in just a second here. Yeah. So we're going to do some hot stepping through the towns. Let's check out level 3 black magic. Got, level 3 nuke. Well, I don't think you're going to want for any more offensive firepower in this level of the game.
Yeah.
So I think the only thing we'll be hoping for maybe in White Magic, we still haven't seen in Viz 2. Fade is locked out to our party. Wall is a nice pick up in that third slot, though. So the only 2 spells you can learn there are going to be that Cure 2 and that Wall.
Level 3 nuke, Seed 2 or easy, reroll.
Exactly. Oh, and we have a level 4 exit. So that'll make it easy to get out of a couple dungeons later on. Oh, well, level 4 warp as well. So I think Greg's going to prefer the warp over the exit at this point. So I have a feeling I know what Greg's doing here. I just want to confirm it on screen before he does the thing. I don't know, Greg. What are you doing?
What am I doing? Is the real question. Okay, I got to figure it out.
All right, excellent. So we know we're not going to make use of that Opal Gauntlet anytime soon, and there's arguably better hand gear for the fighter for his glove slot. So we're just going to sell it off for a quick $6,000 and some change. Not a whole lot going on camping gear-wise from here in Elfland. We're just going to stock up on a couple of heals and maybe grab a soft or two. I'm sure we'll see Greg going back and picking up the warp on the red mage here in just a second.
Chat wondering. Sorry,
Greg. Do your running, buddy.
No, it's cool. Chat was just wondering what spell slot Wall was in. Oh, where the hell am I going?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
So while Greg figures out where he's going and goes back to respawn rate 1, so Wall was in slot 3, which we know is going to be good for both his red mage, and once he promotes, his knight will also be able to pick up that wall spell.
Oh, that's stupid.
Greg's not a big fan of the lamp strats unless it lands really early, so
yeah,
we'll not be seeing lamp
every now and then.
Oh, creeps with blaze. So that just kind of really further cements why, if you can help it, you want to avoid some of these overworld encounters if you can. You know, this part of the world, you see a lot of creeps, and especially when you start shuffling the encounter rarity, they can become really common enemies here. And knowing that they have blaze might kind of, you know, really want you to do some overworld manipulation. So it looks like we've got, power bonk from the king tonight. So there's one of our 3 gear items that are in the pool. So that'll have a little bit of ramifications for, you know, still checking boxes as we'll start talking about some of the intricacies and, you know, your mental routings and, you know, walking yourself through the seed as we start going here. And Greg gets the bad news. He has no more camping gear.
But wait, that wasn't the king. That was a dark elf the whole time. I am so shocked.
What?
I trusted him when I was, you know, young man playing this game. I was like, I will find you your crown because you have this really dapper looking castle and
You're so regal.
I think you need to get rid of these bats. And turns out he's not so nice.
I do have the canoe. The reason why I did what I did instead of docking over in the river system is A, I kind of forgot, and B, I knew I needed to go to Elfland anyway.
Yeah, not bad. So Greg finding the key from the adamant turn-in lets him go down here and open up some boxes down here in the dwarf cave. Well, there's our first loose. So loose number 1 found in dwarf. So cube, big pickup. White shirt also going to be really nice here. Neither one really helps us out right now because, hey, we're probably not going to be using the white shirt when we have nuke to throw at enemies at this point. And cube, obviously, we don't have the chime, so sky is not on the table quite yet. But we'll see where we go from here. So it's nice at this point in the game that I already have 1 loose out of the way. The only thing kind of working against us at this moment is one of our fetch quest turn-ins was a piece of gear. So we're not quite in the realm of our loose is going to be, our second loose is going to be required at this point yet, but it's still a possibility. So we're going to see how else things pan out here. So I'm expecting Greg to probably take that key. I'm sure he'll head back up to Canaria, make his way up there, check out the incentive boxes there. Looks like we're taking a quick stop over here in Northwest Castle. There's 3 free boxes. I'll be curious to see if Greg decides to check the trap tiles while he's in here, just because we don't have any save items. We're thinking about it, and he's gonna come back to that a little bit later. So we'll get to show that off once he gets some save items and comes back. Now Greg's showing off the stepping in and out of the canoe across the river strats. So if you recall back to last week, or if you're just tuning in now, doing what Greg's currently doing on stream, this does not promote or advance the encounter table at all. So if he keeps doing this for the next hour and a half, as long as he does it right, he'll never get an encounter doing that. So stepping into the river tile or stepping out of the river tile doesn't count as a step from the game's encounter mechanic. So it's always a free thing. So it's the nice little features and kind kind of optimizations you can make when you're doing your run. Try and work those in, the less encounters you can take, especially when you don't have, save items available to you. That'll kind of help you, especially knowing that we have blaze creeps, because if he had caught a creep pack there and it kicked him all the way back and he took a wipe, we're walking back to Northwest Castle and doing that whole turn-in chain again and talking to the dwarves again, and that's just going to be a time waste at that point. So doing a little bit of menuing. We got warp, so we're going to use that to save the 9 steps out of the Elfland Armory a little bit quicker. Inning back up, saving all our progress that we've made so far to this point, heading back up, I'm assuming, to Canaria, because again, 6 free chests with that key. One of them is an incentive location, so we're going to get a item from our incentive pool in there. I just got to wait and see what we've got for us today. So a little bit more cash, a heal pot, wear sword. So at least your fighter's not swinging a saber anymore. Heal pot, cash, and the chime. So now that we found cube loosened dwarfs and we have the chime here from Canaria, we do have the entirety of Sky on the table. At this level, it's not a play I'd probably immediately make, but
Sky, go for Sky.
I mean, you do got to go for Sky, but I think the important thing to note is if you make this play, we at least have an answer for it. The only thing we haven't found yet is houses, and I think that would be the one thing I would want to find before doing like an early Sky play, because when you have Nuke early, you can pick up a lot of quick levels there, even just either on Mirage 1 or 2, or even just outside of Mirage itself in the desert area.
As those gargoyles fall over like dominoes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yep. Totally. Is this game even randomized?
I was going to ask you the same thing. I was wondering if you maybe loaded up the wrong ROM or something, but I think we're on board with what we've got so far. So we wanted to show off random spike tiles, but the game says no, you get the vanilla ones.
Nah, I don't really need any of that. After all that, after I'm like, I'm going to equip this coral sword. No, I'm not. I'm just going to go ahead and get out of here.
Yeah, really nothing big here in a Temple of Fiends. So coral sword, nothing really worth saving. Chat pointing out, yeah, there were houses here in Canaria. I just missed it early on because I was busy talking. So we do have, they're not super cheap, but we've got a bit of cash. I'm sure Greg's holding back right now because he does want to buy other supplies. We also haven't seen the vendor item quite yet, and he's probably got at least one more stop to do before he starts picking dungeons to dive, I would imagine. So probably holding back a little bit on that. I'd expecting him to pick up maybe a couple.
Right, I got a question. Here. Which one of these is better, the giant sword or the were sword?
I don't know if everyone sells for less.
I really have no clue which one of those swords is better. I've never had the situation where, I guess it's going to be the were sword.
Let's find out. Yeah.
Chat pointing out something about a grind. It's not going to really happen with this party. That's my standard go-to with black belts, but I'm going to try to get rid of Dang here in just a little bit and probably run a 3-man party with this early nuke and life.
Yeah, chat pointing out also that the giant sword is better, but on the other hand, when you've got 2 nuke casters, your fighter's really not going to be doing a whole lot at this stage of the game. MG Weirder pointing out, yeah, Coral is kind of the top thief weapon, since, until he promotes, he can't use the katana or the moss or the other fun swords. But yeah, Coral's topsy for thief, but unfortunately, Greg's thief isn't long for this world if Greg has anything to say about it. So, Greg just recomposing himself there for a minute. Bless you, sir.
Yeah, sorry about that.
And then, yeah, you're fine. And then we're going to hop down. We're going to see what the Sages of Crescent Lake have for us, and we'll do a little bit of item shop checking while we're here. I'm sure we'll go back and check the level 6 magic. Not that we are really hoping for anything at level 6 at this point. But yeah, we'll just see what else we have in store here in Crescent. So we've got the herb, so we heard you like fetch quests.
All right, so I'm going to ask you, Ale, now that I have the herb, but I also have an incentive, volcano. and an incentive ice. Do I do volcano now and ice, or do I go on ahead and do the herb turn in and see what happens from there? In your opinion?
I'm personally, so the way I approach the game is I try and, if I can clear out a quadrant of the world, I clear out a quadrant of the world so I never have to go back there.
Okay.
And so when I'm thinking of quadrants of the world, I'm thinking, okay, bottom right is ice and volcano, bottom left is earth, top left is sea, top right is sky. So if I'm down here, if I know I have an incentive in Ice Cave, we have warp access, we have nuke access, and I also know that we have a incentive down in the bottom of volcano, I'm probably going ice first, and then I'm going to go to volcano.
Okay, well, I'm totally not doing any of that, so I don't
No,
know why I
actually-
asked you that question.
I think you're doing what I would honestly do. And that would, although you saved and I probably wouldn't have. My thought would have been just take the run over to Herb, see what Herb turns into, and then depending upon what it is, because if it's the floater, for example, and you can just turn it in, then flying the volcano and ice is way faster than doing the canoe to it.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, because now I just got something that I don't really need currently.
Yeah, so, Rod, I mean, hey, if anything, it'll be 10% more EXP for our party. So pick up a couple more levels on the way. We do have, I think I saw 5 or 6 nuke charges between, the red mage and the black mage at this moment. And we do have seems like a somewhat generous run at the start, even though our encounters are a little bit higher in dungeons. We'll see if that holds true. But luckily, as long as that black mage stays alive, depending on which one Greg routes in first, that black mage will be pivotal for kind of making ice a little bit easier. Because we can go down, we can make it one trip. We can use the warp trick to just get those 3 boxes. If we want to, what we can do is we can maybe, mess around and check out what the spike tiles are in Ice Cave, depending on how the other enemies in there fare and how many charges we have when we get back to that point. Just so we can maybe show off those randomized spike tiles. Since the gargoyles weren't cooperating with us tonight. So we're going to see how it goes here. So we do have a couple houses in stock here, I believe I saw from Greg's inventory. So it's nice to, as long as the enemies on the river don't have a lot of nasty skills or spells, it's nice to maybe try and take a fight along the way, just because they're usually fairly low HP. Ice 3 and or nuke will definitely wipe them out. Looks like that's what Greg's going to do here, showing off some fish slaying strats of his. That Ice 3 definitely doing work and clearing out the pack. They don't really seem to be beefy. They don't seem to be nasty, casting spells and skills on us first turn. Didn't seem to be even hitting hard. So nothing really to worry about there. I do believe we got warp available for the red mage now. So as soon as we pop a house, we'll at least have a warp charge between each of the mages at this point. So that's just something you can kind of do. Just it helps to know where your spell breakpoints are, or if you don't know where your breakpoints are, once you gain a level or two, just check your magic levels within the menu itself and to see if you have that extra spell charge that you want. If you do, hey, great, save and carry on. If you don't, maybe consider popping in, checking out the inside of Ice Cave, see what the fights are like. You've got a couple different options. Again, it just comes down to comfort level and game knowledge, and that's what we're here to help build up. So, unrunnable image in his raids, probably not what Greg wanted to see down here. Harm 4 in that second slot, definitely going to help him conserve some of those nuke charges on the red mage and the black mage, provided we get turn order. So, looking back, that Harm 4 pickup, really nice pickup there for Greg back at level 2 in Provoca. So, generally speaking, at least in my experience, the Wraith image pack that we just got out of tends to pop up a lot down here. And so we could be in potentially to see a lot of these unrunnable fights, and that's just going to be a huge drain on your resources. So the quicker we can get off of this particular floor, get down deeper in Ice Cave where those guys aren't as prevalent, the better off for us. So let's see what Greg chooses to do here. Is this Frost Giant and Frost Wolves want to have a word with him about his antics, and apparently Frost Wolves have stingers now, so that's really nice to see. Glad we picked up 20 pure pots.
I think he's going to get poisoned and then be a dirty cheater.
Right. And I'm thinking Dang's never going to get unpoisoned at this point in the game. So. All right, so warp trick coming up. So easiest thing to do, walk to that back center hole, drop down, and warp back up. You can easily access all 3 boxes, saving yourself a ton of steps, picking up that Oxio. That's not going to help us right now. And then just kind of going from there. So first trap tile down in ice that we see is that Gator one. Not really a lot of fun. This spike tile, however, kind of like what Darkwing was just saying, I love this. We have Ice 2. We have Ice 3. We have Nuke. We have a very weak pack of Red Hydras. I
They fall
think,
over like dominoes.
yeah, I think at this point in time, I'm going to probably spend a couple fights here, provided they don't bust out something nasty within a fight or two. And I'm not saying I'm going to spend all my spell charges here, but I'm going to spend a lot of them because that's going to be a lot of fast EXP for our party. That'll make that inevitable volcano dive a lot faster as well.
Like they kind of have a high ambush rate. Again, not too scary, but with the Ice 3, you're right. I could probably make something happen. That does cut into my harm 4 charges.
Yeah, they seem to be rolling pretty low HP, though. I think I saw 170 take them out. So if you're feeling cheeky, you could even maybe try throwing like some Ice 2s at them and see what we get here. So, yep, so chat pointing out that the R-Hydras do have Poison Touch, so that is one of the things that we shuffled around. So we didn't add new touches to the pool, so there's not obviously like 60 or 70, enemies with Poison Touch in the game. All the vanilla numbers of touches are still there. It's just a matter of who has it. And we found our first one tonight, and that was the R-Hydras with a apparently high ambush rate, as well as that Poison Touch.
Yeah, I figured I'd go for one more time just to see if I just somehow manage to be completely unlucky and get ambushed twice in a row. But I'm probably not going to stick around here.
I can see
To
that.
be perfectly honest, it's taken me way longer than I want. Granted, I am getting levels. It's nice to be already level 15 and have as much money as I do for when the vendor item does show up. But
No,
yeah,
this is a good stopping point right here, just because of the fact that you don't want to level up too much before you class change.
Yeah, and not only that, you don't want to spend a lot of time killing things here. So when you're running fighter strats, most of the time you're going to end up doing a walking grind, as it's called. So you're going to be taking fights as you go through the dungeons. You're not going to be necessarily sitting there for minutes on end, sitting there grinding one single tile for levels. So what we're going to have here is level 15 is a really great stopping point for never having stepped foot in any of the Fiend dungeons quite yet. It'll give us plenty of nuke charges between our red and our black mage. Greg gets initiative on the Sharp Big Eye fight, so absolutely going to take this. This is one of the really high EXP fights from Sea Shrine.
Gorgeous fight, honestly.
Oh yeah, and absolutely with having that Quad X working on the Big Eye and the Shark, never getting to go. Hey, what's 2 more free levels?
What is 2 more free levels?
What is 2 more 3 levels?
It's 2 more free levels.
Warhammer, a nice find. I missed what was in that bottom chest, but it
wasn't anything important.
Yeah, it didn't look like it was anything worth mentioning, so I didn't hear any chimes or dinging or incentive item noises going off, so I figured you weren't going to be cheering about it. So finishing up our dive here in Ice, definitely still want to be checking chests at this point, just because A, we still have yet to find any ribbons, B, we have yet to find any end-game gear, and C, we still have a second loose item on the table, and we don't want to accidentally skip it as we're clearing through a dungeon. So definitely want to make our way through here. Got 3 more chests to check in here, a little bit of cash, a little bit more cash that we don't need thanks to those R-Hydras, and exiting right out, using our house, and now we're ready to rock and roll and move on to our next dungeon. So, question in chat, did Ale mention promotion on the levels thing?
You kind of went over it, but not like the actual levels.
So, are you speaking of promoting like class changing?
Yes. I assume that's what he's talking about.
All right. So, a lot of runners, they will avoid grinding to really high levels because of the way spell charges work. So, it doesn't really matter for the red mage and the black mage because they're going to get spell charges regardless. The one that does matter, though, is be that fighter. So, starting at level 15, well, let's back up. If you class change at 14, he will get his first spell charges for levels 1, 2, and 3 at level 15, and then from every odd level after that. So if you absolutely want to get your spell charges as early as possible, the sooner you can class change, the better. The only thing we don't know in this particular seed, obviously, is where the airship is going to be, or I'm sorry, where the floater will be at, or where the tail is going to be at, because I don't believe we've seen either one as of yet tonight. So you don't want to sit there and grind too high at an early level unnecessarily, because there were a couple decent-ish low-level white magic spells that we want to maybe take advantage of. I believe we had a level 1 life. Level 2, I think we had a cure 3 and that we could go back for. Level 3, we had a wall. So definitely we've got a couple decent night spells in the pool. So the sooner we can take advantage of that by maybe just kind of holding off on bulk of our leveling.
Especially the life.
Yeah, the better off we'll be. So,
Just a comment, you did get to see right there the Final Fantasy special of watching someone cast really powerful magic, and then after a couple of them fell over, you ran away from the fight, because that's just what Final Fantasy does.
Yep, sounds about right.
speaking of what May does, Peds have stun touch tonight. So
Yay.
now we've seen 2 touches in just as many dungeons. And I feel like all these ambushes are punishing you for carrying that poor thief's body along with you instead of letting him run at the front of your party.
Well, it's better there than in the front, where it messes up my RNG as far as getting attacked.
True. So, something that I'm sure people will eventually question in chat, so why is Greg only running with 3 people? So, right now, with the flags that we have, EXP is split up amongst the surviving party members. So, right now, instead of getting, say a mob gives him 1,000 EXP, if he's got 4 people up, each one gets 250. Quick math. By getting rid of, Whistarkers with Thunder, that's a little unfortunate. Luckily, I don't think we've seen anything really great in there, so that's just kind of FYI, like, hey, let's always avoid that spike tile.
Yeah, I think he already
that's just-
exited with the ice armor.
I did not. I warped back a level, so I will not be getting that ice armor.
Oops.
Ice armor is just going to hang out where it is.
Don't you already have Opal, though?
I do. That's
You'll
why
use
I
it
don't
eventually. You'll be fine, yeah.
Question in
We have
chat,
not
we have
seen Temper.
Temper. We haven't seen Temper, we haven't seen Fast, and I don't believe we've seen either Lock Spell either.
Fast level 6.
I just
What's
got
that
something
for?
that's going to totally negate the ice armor anyway, so
Oh, I bet it's a Flame Armor.
no.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, Dragon Armor, but we can't use that till we class change, so.
But yeah,
Oh,
Fast is
do it.
at level 6. I don't know if you could actually buy it yet, but it was there.
Yeah.
Alright, so not a whole lot coming out of Armory tonight. You know, Dragon Armor, great, but doesn't immediately help us. Ice Armor can stay where it was. Greg doesn't care to go back for it. Level-wise, I'd say we're still looking good. We didn't really use up a whole lot of spell charges on that initial Armory scouring checking dive that we did. So we can just go ahead and run right on over to carry. Greg not even caring about taking the lava tiles to minimize how many encounters he gets. He's just running straight left on that first floor and just wants to get to that staircase as fast as he could. So speaking of lava tiles, any lava tile, or if you're in Ice Cave and you have those ice lava tiles that they are, as you walk on that, just kind of like walking in and out of the river system, getting on and off your canoe, walking on those damage tiles does not advance the encounter meter counter at all. So you can sit there and forever, really, if you wanted to, sit there and walk back and forth on the lava tiles. It's actually a decent plan, especially if you're, say, playing week 1 flags where you don't have the randomized spike tiles on, because you can easily get rid of extra characters before you go and fight the Agma spike tiles in here. Where our levels are at tonight, though, and where we've already kind of seen one nasty spike tile mob, I don't see Greg doing that tonight. That's always kind of a play to keep in the back of your mind. It's you do have a number of spike tiles here in Volcano that you can go and take pretty easily, carelessly, or carefully. Not have to worry about taking encounters. Greg showing off the walking on that bottom row of a room, so you'll never get encounters there. You'll also never get encounters in the doorway or in the cell right outside of the door. So that entire little T step that he's doing there, all the way down to that lava tile, all those are free steps for him. And these Stinger Frost Wolves just really want to let you know you should have gone back to Ice Cave.
No, it's not even that that's making me upset. You'll see.
Uh-oh. Oh, no. They also have Thunder.
Oh, that's heartbreaking. At least you got past it.
Yeah. With everybody alive, too. Can't even believe that.
Aegis Seal, so nice pick up there. I believe that is one of our better treasure trap tile boxes that we have in there. So again, those are listed in that Google Doc that was linked back at the start of the video. I also linked it in the Duckling Pond channel on our Discord, so I threw all that at the bottom of the document for you guys, everybody. It's pulled straight from the Randomizer site, so it shows off the locations and vanilla contents of the boxes that have the better tile treasure. as well as what constitutes better tile treasure as well. So it's got the list of items you could feasibly get from the boxes in there too. So feel free to reference that, either before, after, during your seed run when you decide to run the flags this week. So continuing to kind of pick clean Volcano here. Nothing really great so far aside from that Aegis shield. So we've got 2 more boxes here on the Agaba floor to check. Neither of these are really the box we're really in here for at this point. The real box that we want to be down 1 floor on the 9 o'clock position of the floor, and that's going to be the incentive tile. So we're really going to be hoping for Greg's sake that we don't find another enemy there that has Thunder, because he might not be the happiest camper.
I think I'll be upset. Be a little frustrated, to say the least.
A little bit, yeah. So running from battles, trying to conserve spell charges, not a bad plan. Especially because we know we do have a Fiend fight come up here in just a couple minutes at this point.
Clamp Fiend fight, too.
Absolutely. So, speaking of Clamped Fiend fight, so while we walk to this incentive box and we cross our fingers and hold our breath for what enemies are on these spike tiles, we'll see the second one here after this Red D fight, because he apparently just wants to randomly attack you right next to his vanilla trap tile. So, Wolves and Scorpions, not too terrible. So, harking back to the start of the broadcast, when we were down there in Temple of Fiends, we were talking about using Quad X on Garland. Something nice with clamps is we know what our vanilla game enemies have. So, Bottle from Volcano doesn't immediately help us, so that tells us that our progression is either going to be in Ordeals, possibly Waterfall, could still be loose in another dungeon. We'll find out, probably right after Greg finds out later on. So let's talk about the Fiends here real quick. So carry 1, vanilla game, 600 HP. So we know she's guaranteed to have at least 600 HP tonight. With the scaling on bosses going up to 150%, she could have up to 900 HP. So when you're fighting these bosses, depending on what kind of nastiness they have, and if you already have an early Quad X, that's definitely something you kind of want to just keep in the back of your head. Fighter swinging for 29, not doing a whole lot. Nuke going out for 178. Another nuke going out for 360. So we're probably just under her vanilla HP at this point. So instead of going for the hopeful Quad X strat, we're going to keep throwing nukes out at her. And that gets it done. So if, for instance, you're running these particular Cs and you come across any of the Fiend fights, and say maybe you're low on charges because you've had a lot of nasty unrunnables, if you at least can keep in the back of your head what their vanilla HPs are, and you can kind of figure out their HP ranges with the clamps on, you can kind of get a little creative with using Quad X. So if you say you're fighting Carrie, and I lost kind of exactly how much HP she had, but that's not important right now. But say you've done 601 HP worth of damage to her. You know she had a 600 vanilla game, so if she had rolled 100%, she would have been dead. You know she can only roll up to 900 with 150% clamps. Quad X kills anything under 300 HP, or at or under 300 HP. Hey, throw out your Quad X. It'll work on carry just as well as any other mob, with a couple exceptions.
So we've basically hit the point now where it's basically the woulda, shoulda, coulda situation. Right now we know that while the Oxyale that we got from Ice is required to finish the game, it's kind of not what we want to see. We want to find the floater so we can get in the air. And then, of course, the bottle is definitely not what we need right now because we need the floater to get in the air. So, this is where the gambling part of the game plays, where basically, I had 2 options. I could have turned in the herb and then immediately gone to Ordeals and Waterfall and done that, or I could have made the decision that I did make. Unfortunately, in this particular situation, I would say I chose poorly. Unless for whatever reason the floater is our second loose item.
Yep, and aside from that, though, when you're this early in the seed, though, it's never a bad idea to kind of just hedge your bets and go for what I feel is probably the more realistic odds. So yeah, we could have gone to Ordeals early. There's just 1 key item there. We could have gone to Waterfall early. Yeah, there's a key item there. yeah, we do have a fiend fight over in Sea Shrine, as Greg shows off his canoe strats, and hoping his controller doesn't give him an extra input like mine did last week. But you kind of want to play your odds at that point. So Sea Shrine, arguably more dangerous than Volcano and Ice Cave, especially when you don't really have a lot of gear to speak of, because we haven't really been lucky with finding any of the like really nice gear yet. We haven't seen pro rings in shops. We haven't seen ribbons anywhere. We saw an ice armor, but it's gonna melt in Volcano somewhere because we're never gonna pick it up. So Greg's showing off, his little grind room up here. So walking, not getting any encounters on this particular bottom part of the room, and he's gonna show us this grind tile. So we got some frost giants and frost wolves, and he's gonna think back to, I hope they don't get 2 rounds of combat because I know those frost wolves have thunder in their arsenal. Luckily, they don't roll a lot of HP, and 1 nuke takes them down. But this is an often underused spike tile, in my opinion, for a lot of these runs. If you're running a party comp that absolutely requires you to find the best grind tile, try and keep that one in the back of your head too, because that's not one that a lot of people are going to check. And you've got to pretty much almost always walk through that 4-pillar room part of the ordeals floor anyways. And I think it's only about 7 or 8 tiles off or worth of walking out of your way. And it might pay off big, especially with these random spike tiles on. So Greg getting through the pillar maze pretty quickly, only used 2 warps to do so. Man-Cat's probably not a fight you want to grind on.
Well, the reason why you don't normally go into that room, at least in the regular games, because the treasure chest there is linked with one of the treasure chests up above. So if the formations aren't randomized, there's absolutely no reason to go check it.
Yeah, and I believe in the vanilla game that's what a Mudgall tile.
Yes.
And that's not something you normally want to grind on. Like it's had some success for some runners, but
Yeah, it's 1 or 3
better
Mudgall.
options.
You're about to see a totally vanilla pickup here in just a second.
Ooh, exciting.
Unless you've already seen it. You've probably already seen it at this point.
We're just finishing our gargoyle fight.
Oh, okay, cool. Well,
All right, so cash, open field, black shirt, and that treasure box that's empty on the left-hand side. So that is the one that is linked to that previous room, and that's what Duckling was talking about just a minute ago. So that's why that room is commonly skipped. And hey, look, there's our promotion item. So, running out of options for where we want to go.
Yeah, there's our promotion item we can't use yet.
Yeah, we're just going to hang on to this tail and hope it doesn't get moldy and nasty before we can get it to the dragons to, unlock our internal power and level us up.
Was that treasure chest refrigerated? I mean...
I hope so.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much refrigeration technology they had, but hopefully it would have stayed cold enough. And or it was a really fresh rat, I'm not sure.
Just load it daily, basically.
So, Greg going and doing the thing here. Gonna pop a cabin, pop in his bottle, making sure that his menuing is a little bit cleaner. And he knows he hasn't seen the vendor item yet. We have the canoe. Hey, let's check the caravan. Maybe we'll get paid out. And nothing really at the caravan, but we will take a second or two, maybe just a stock note. We're back. We're going back the other way.
Yeah,
So,
I did it.
on rack is going to get checked for the vendor item. Let's see what we have here. We do not have a vendor item, so we know at this point the vendor item is going to be floater locked. We know the vendor item will be in Gaia. We know the vendor item cannot be the floater because it can't lock itself. And we also know it's not going to give us any kind of progression, whatever the vendor item is. So we've kind of narrowed down a couple things at this point. Either our floater is going to be loose in earth or sky or sea, or it'll be here in waterfall. And I absolutely love this waterfall check before you have to go into sea. Even though at this point, unless we find the second loose in waterfall, we'll probably still be checking a lot of boxes in waterfall. I'm sorry, in Sea Shrine.
Yeah. Basically, if this doesn't lead to floater, then we've got to do the whole, hey, what place do we want to go on ahead and start full clearing next?
So let's think ahead a little bit, Greg. If you don't get the floater out of here, you have access to Earth Cave. You obviously are right next to Sea Shrine. And you found Cube and Shime early. What dungeon are you going to do? Let's see what dungeon you do second, because I'm pretty sure you're going to do Sea Shrine while you're here.
I'll probably do Sky after this, because I'm on the northern hemisphere anyway, so there's no reason not to. Plus, there's 52 chests inside of Sky, and you get all the experience in the history of time. Even though at this point, I really don't want experience. I really want to get promotion so that I can get my fighter to do things. Give me that floater. No, you're going to give me fetch quest. Oh, sorry.
And chat pointing out too that if the robot happens to give us the loot, or as Greg mentioned, it's a fetch quest. If the fetch quest happens to turn into the loot, this could be a potentially floater the seed,
Yep.
depending on what items happen to fall as our second loose here. So if this crystal turns into the loot, floater's going to be loose somewhere in the world, and then our last fetch quest, so the bottle and the slab are going to turn into defense sword and masa, which Greg may or may not want to hunt down. So
Pretty much want to hunt down. I am running 100. I mean, it's 150% clamped. It's not the highest clamped in the history of time, but I definitely would prefer to have them.
So what we're going to see here, Greg's going to kind of do a couple different things. So one, he popped a cabin right there near Onrak because he knows he has a quick way to get to Matoya. So often forgotten about, but often at the same time a kind of sense of, or a source of frustration for a lot of runners. Early game when you don't have the canoe, Matoya's got this lovely river system right outside her cave. So you can go ahead and dock at the river system, walk right into Matoya's house. You can go ahead and raid her little storage closet, check her boxes for a little bit of cash, a little bit less cash, and a little bit more cash. And she can give us the TNT because we heard you like fetch quests.
Do you like your fetch quests?
And so we're going to keep on with what we're doing. So we're trying to avoid, saving, because again, if this turns into something like the slab, or if this turns into something like the defense sword, what you're going to see Greg do is just pop that reset button. And I'm kind of wondering that too, because I think you're just doing like the inner C circuit at this point.
Okay.
I mean, it was more direct to
earlier.
It was more direct to walk that way than it was to try and get your ship all the way around there.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, look, defense sword. So, never saved the entire time. I feel like I commentator cursed you, and for that I'm sorry.
I appreciate it. I mean, the defense sword's not a bad pickup, and I will make it happen at some point, but I may as well do what I'm doing here.
Yeah, and exactly. And that's why we avoided saving. So, we had a sail, not all the way, but, we sailed southeast from Onrak. We hit up Matoya's River. Then we had to walk all the way to Dwarves just for a defense sword that, great, we can use it in Battle for Ruse, but that's not going to really help us get in the air. That's not going to help us progress at the moment. And
I'm doing something. Sorry.
No,
I was just saying, I'm doing something completely against conventional wisdom. Most people would say go towards the fiend, kill the fiend, and head down to mermaids. I don't know why I'm going the way that I'm going.
So Greg's going the way he's going because in the back of his head, he's worried that Kraken's got something nasty, or that something in the Sea Shrine has something nasty, because lobsters just like to do lobster things and sea snakes like to do sea snake things. So he's hoping for maybe a ribbon, because we've already got a couple dungeons cleared and we haven't found diddly as far as elemental defenses go. Aside from that dragon armor, we can't use that yet. So I think Greg's doing this because he really is hoping for a ribbon out of here, or even maybe just lucking out and finding that second loose item, which at this point we know
is required.
Pretty much has to be the floater as well.
Or something that leads to the floater, yeah.
Well, I think all our fetch quests are done with the exception of slab, and we know that can't lead to floater, so...
Oh, that's true. So yeah, it's got to be the floater.
Mm-hmm. Because, we had Crystal turns into TNT, turns into Fencer was our most recent one. Herb earlier turned into the Rod. Adamant turned into adamant things earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I'm failing to remember what it was. I think it was the Chime, perhaps. I think we've seen pretty much all our fetch quests. So, Ice Shield, hey, that's not a bad pickup down here. We don't have a shield on that fighter yet. Plus, it does give us some, I believe it's fire resist for that fighter. So, if something down here happens to have, say, Fire 2 or Blaze, at least the fighter will be a little bit protected. Not that I'd want to hedge my bets of a solo fighter versus Kraken when I'm only swinging an ice sword.
Mm-hmm.
But at least we have the power bonk from the kindly old king earlier, so maybe that'll turn the tide for us.
We do still have one more fetch quest. We have the slab out there, but the floater can't be behind it at this point.
Yep.
Right. So something you'll see Greg's done is he's put his Thor hammer on his fighter. That's especially a nice idea when you're down here in Sea Shrine. Not only will it kind of, if you're lucky and things happen to roll a little bit weak, it'll probably clear out the majority of the packs you see down here. especially with the Wiz Sahag, Red Sahag packs. That is just everybody's top favorite pack to find down in Sea Shrine. Speaking of which,
I was gonna say you're like the Messiah over here, prophet.
but it gives the fighter something to do. So yeah, swinging an Ice Sword is great, but when you've got 7 mobs on the screen and you're trying to maybe conserve your nuke charges for a fiend kill, there's better ways to go about things, and definitely making use of that Thor hammer is probably going to be the way to go here. So really nice to see that being put to use.
TFC check.
Everyone's favorite box.
Well, it's nice to see. It's nice to be able to utilize it when you actually have the key,
Oh,
as
absolutely.
opposed to finding the key on the opposite side of Sea Shrine once you've already cleared this area. But I don't know what I'm talking about exactly.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think that was your last chance to explain it too. So, the nice thing here too is we have exit. We've used a lot of spell charges. On the other hand, we've also gained a few levels down here already. Like we're 23 across the board, with the exception of the poor little rotting thief that we're dragging behind us.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I think the
point.
smart play is what Greg's doing right now. Exit out, use that house, go back in with full spell charges, and we're going down the crack inside. We're hoping something's there.
Thief?
Yeah,
What thief? I don't see a thief.
Yeah, if I hadn't gained any levels, if I hadn't done any of that stuff, I would have more than likely just done a reset out of there. But
Yeah, the levels are nice, especially knowing that there's still some pretty nasty mobs down here, and we already saw unrunnable sea snakes, and that's kind of forced our hand to take a few fights. As far as gear goes, the only real big piece of gear we fished out of mermaids was going to be that ice shield. So if something happened, like if we had taken a wipe to something down here, there's really no harm in completely skipping mermaids at this point, unless you really, really, really want that ice shield, which you probably don't. So
no, probably not so much. Hey, everyone's favorite enemy.
I'm waiting with bated breath.
Oh, it's amazing.
Hey, lobsters.
They're the best.
And I mean, not to raid on your parade, but depending upon what you're looking for that loose and where that floater could be, don't forget there's always Marsh Cave.
Yay!
Yeah,
Can't wait.
I think we've all collectively blocked that from our minds. But yeah, so as Greg sits here and traverses through Sea Shrine, so let's go over what some possible options are for him. We've already gotten all the fetch quests out of the way. We've seen practically everything on the table with the exception of the loot and the floater and the slab. We've got a couple fetch quest chains to sit there and turn in. So at this point, we've pretty much deduced that the only way we can keep getting incentive items is for the floater to be the loose item. So with the floater being loose, and with getting the ship and the canoe early, and getting an early chime and an early cube and an early rod and an early oxio, it can literally be anywhere. The thing that we've had going for us is we full cleared ice, we full cleared volcano, we've done all of the we've done all of the locked box chests in the early game, with the exception of Marsh Cave, which we haven't stepped in. So Greg's really going to be hoping that floater is going to be somewhere here in Sea Shrine.
We're 8 encounter coming up.
Ooh, exciting.
Yeah, it's Sea Shrine, or if he doesn't find it here, Sky Palace, which he's going over to next, and has, I think, the best chest density in the game at like 53 boxes or something. What he doesn't want to see is like go through all that, then go do Earth, and then end up without the loot and have to go do Marsh afterwards.
And it's more than likely what's going to happen, because we are doing a teaching stream. So we're going to teach everybody that everything's in March Cave.
Yeah, exactly.
The lesson you never want to teach.
And I know that was the meme for a while during the spring tournament 2020, that if particular people always roll a seed, the play is always in Marsh. But on the other hand, it depends on your flags. So I think with our week 1 flags, I would be hard pressed to imagine a lot of people would have taken a trip into Marsh knowing where things landed. Finally finding a pro ring, that's going to be a nice pickup. Going to help out I'd imagine our red mage at this point, since he's our life caster. Yeah, and our MG Weirdo in chat pointing out that, we're down to 1 loose item that practically has to be the floater because it can't lock itself out. Worm tile, pretty nice, but since we're already like low to mid 20s across the board, I don't think that's a fight we really want. But if Greg doesn't run away, it might force his hand here in just a second. So, and we got away.
they're an end game enemy basically, and finding a triple pack of them on that tile right there. That's what, like, probably a 2 to 4 tile, and you got the mid range one. That's a lovely pack.
No, especially with Nuke. So if we hadn't taken all those R Hydra fights and a couple of the other fights that we saw in Ice Cave and a Volcano, that wouldn't be a terrible spot to maybe pick up some levels. I'm always kind of on the edge of doing a grind here in Sea Shrine because you're pretty deep, and if you happen to hit something nasty and take a wipe, that's a lot of time that you're kind of conceding back to your opponent or the seed itself. And Greg just kind of doing the hot step really wanted us to see that Chimera pack a second time, so.
All for Light X.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and this time I definitely didn't want to take the Chimera pack again, so.
All right, and so we also know that Sea Shrine is not where our loose item is, so circling back, so at this point we have every other dungeon with the exception of, so let's just go the other way. Floater could be in Earth, Floater could be in Marsh, Floater could be in Sky. Because we've checked everything else. So those are the 3 dungeons that we have left. So Greg's going to play the odds. He knows that there's the most boxes in Sky. So he's pretty much already said if C doesn't have it, we're going up in the air. So we're going to really hope that it's in Sky. Because that's really going to be gating a lot of our endgame progression. So we know that we've seen the defense sword. I think it's safe to assume at this point that the loot will probably be our vendor item, and then our bottle is going to turn into our slab and is going to turn into the masa. I think that's where I'm going with it. Either that or maybe the slab is a vendor item and then the other 2 are just kind of sitting there.
Yeah, because the masa can't be the vendor item.
Correct. So when you're thinking of key items, it
either has to be the bottle turn in and the loot is the vendor item, or the slab is the vendor item, whatever you're trying to say.
Right. So the vendor item is going to be something that shows up in your item menu when you're looking at it. So heal pot, pure pot, soft pot, something that's going to pop in there. If you have incentivized gear, that will never be for sale in a shop. Question in chat, stepped away, did we check Caravan? We sure did, and they didn't have much of anything.
A bunch of housing, and that was about it.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if I'm going to buy houses from a man running a caravan, because he's clearly not even trusting his own product to set one up. He's still working out of a wagon.
Slightly used. Such a good deal.
So Greg's using that level, I believe it was level 1 life spell that we had. He's bringing his thief back up. We know where defense sword came from. Unfortunately, we don't have Invis 2 anywhere to speak of, and I'm kind of curious why he's cackling. We'll find out in just a second. But he brought the thief up to kind of take that top slot, and it didn't matter. Down goes the red mage. So the hope there was that Kraken would take the bait and punch the thief because the top slot. Oh no!
Yeah, that's a bunch of 1 in 64 right there. All right. And
wow.
of course, I didn't bother keeping my defense sword, so now I'm just trying to think about what I want to do at this point.
I was just gonna say, what would really help in this right now? A defense sword.
But we had our hubris. We said we don't need no defense sword in our lives.
Nope, don't need the defense sword. Sorry, I just gave it away, but
I'm not sure you gave anything away.
I didn't hear. Oh no!
Oh.
Hey, you got it. All right. And just in case that fighter didn't have enough EXP already, level 26, and we still have half of the dungeons to clear.
You still gain levels at the upper, or spell charges at the upper levels. It's fine.
Yeah, MG Weirdo pointing out that Kraken had to have rolled like really low in health. Like, I mean, couldn't have had much more than vanilla HP just then.
Yeah, so her vanilla HP is 800, so even though mobs are clamped, or bosses are clamped, I should say, they can still roll at or right above their vanilla HP, so she didn't have to roll 1200. That was her max today, but she clearly does a favor because she really just wanted to take out those poor nuke casting mages in the back row. And that's something else to talk about as well. So when you're looking at organizing your party for a fiend fight, whichever light warrior you have in that top slot, the very top slot or your first slot, or whoever's walking around your map, they've got a 50% chance of being targeted by the enemy if they're doing like a single target swipe or anything like that. The second slot has a 25% chance. And then the third and the fourth slot each have a 12.5% chance. And that's if all 4 of your people are alive. So to have the red mage taken out in that first round, and then have the black mage taken out in the second round, it's very unlikely that that's going to happen, but it's still within the realm of possibility. You just hate to see it, especially when they're the ones that are really doing all your damage. So, all right. So, Sky, walking across the desert, making use of that open progression dock that we've added down there. And I'm going to trust MG Weirdo's math. He knows math better than I do, especially when I'm talking on Twitch. So he says it's about a 2% chance of having your third and then your fourth people smacked during combat, and that sounds about right. Opal Bracelet pickup down there in Mirage, so that's not a bad find. Best caster body armor in the game, I'd say, outside of like that white and black shirt.
Basically the same as the ice armor or flame armor, except it doesn't have like the evade penalties like those two or those two armors have. Like, go on ahead, sorry.
Not that you have the ice armor.
I think it's 34.
Yeah, 34 sounds right because that's going to give you your math for black belt absorb numbers, but we'll get into that in a couple weeks. But yeah, so nothing really to speak of down in Mirage 1 aside from that Opal Bracelet, so I'm sure we'll be seeing Greg check the less than greater than room in just a second. Got to make sure I say that right because I've gotten yelled at for the treasure chest form a less than sign. Why do you call it the greater than less than room? Well, I like to cause problems, Greg, and that's why.
Plus, it rolls off the tongue better, honestly.
It kind of
really does.
That was my argument, and I got shut down, so I just said, okay, I concede.
All right.
So, Excal, nice pickup, but we know we're going to get the Masa from a fetch quest, and at this point, we pretty much have to do our fetch quest because, loot's going to come from there. Pro Cape, not a bad find. Bane Sword, a decent find, too, so that's something I'd probably consider throwing on the Knight. Throwing on the Fighter, because even though we're almost level 30, we haven't promoted yet. But I'd probably consider throwing that Bane Sword on the Fighter just because it gives you a little bit extra insta-kill power for Tia, especially if she decides to roll kind of healthy in these particular flags, maybe going up towards that 150% mark. If you can knock her out in one action instead of 4 rounds and give her opportunities to knock out your party, always a good play.
Yeah, it's like a 1 in 8 or so for Bane to hit.
Yeah, I've heard different numbers depending on different people, but I think 1 in 8 sounds about right because that's going to be close to that. I don't know,
12-ish percent,
14% chance. Yeah.
If we had the true mathematicians in our in chat right now, they could give us the actual numbers. But yeah, I want to say it's about 1 in 8 is what I've always heard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Chad already pointing out to not pay too much attention to what you do when you hit the Sky 4 floor, but we'll talk about it in just a minute or two.
What?
Huh?
Oh, I do things wrong than both of you, so, we all have our opinions.
Hey, look, I'm 1 for 1. Left, down, left gets you a war mech every time, and I am 1 for 1, so that's 100% confirmed. I would just like to point that out. But yeah, so, at this point, we're just kind of filling air while you play with these mummies that are just kind of, not wanting to let you do your thing, and
I wanted my black belt. I wanted my black mage to actually attack like he was a black belt. So that was kind of what I was going for.
Yeah, I know you're missing your black belt, and I guess black mage is the closest thing you have to it at the moment. So,
Punchy big straw hat.
Yeah, I'm gonna go for the world's loneliest chest here.
Nacho tile, not the worst one. I think aside from that R Hydra tile, I think that's the best one we've seen so far.
At the levels that I'm at, I do not need to be checking for tiles.
No, absolutely not.
I'm so really ridiculously over leveled at this point.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the things with the flags too. Like that is a little bit overtuned with regards to how much EXP you're getting per fight, especially with the progression for the EXP per key item that we have set on. But that's kind of on purpose. Like if you're a newer player running this game, levels are kind of your biggest advantage to a seed. We don't want people to be sitting there running EXP starved through a seed, especially if things land just like in terrible locations for progression. You're forced to do I don't know, some obscene level 1 dive or level 4 dive in volcano for a progression item. You shouldn't have to do that.
You shouldn't ask you that to do that.
Yeah, but
it just seems rude.
A little bit, yeah. Just kind of this isn't right for ducks. Why would Greg do this? Thanks for rolling this seed, Greg. But no, levels are arguably your greatest asset. It gives you so much per level. You get more damage for your fighters, you get more spell charges for your mages, you get more HP for everybody, which makes them all be able to take a hit. So the EXP scaling, while maybe a little bit generous, it's really designed to just kind of help you get in and kind of figure things out. It helps you figure out, your foundation for the game. It helps you learn good strategies. It helps you learn good kind of map routing. You don't have to necessarily worry so much about, hey, I hit this mob, he hit me a little bit too hard, I lost my guy. It helps you get in, and then as you learn the game more, as your experience with the game kind of goes up, then you can kind of start dialing the EXP back to kind of like, where a lot of the more veteran runners keep things at. And that point, you can kind of get in and kind of really make use of what you have in any given seed. So,
just to point out, on the previous plus sign floor, Greg did find the flame armor. The flame armor being the equivalent armor-wise as far as absorb and all that as the ice. They're basically the same. It's just one provides the ice protection of the flame armor, while the other has the fire protection of the ice armor. That combined with the ice shield he basically has the best mid-game set that he can get, because you get 2 elemental protections and all the protection that you want right there, absorb-wise.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really something to speak to as well, because even though we've cleared, what have we full cleared so far? Let's call it out. We full cleared ice, we full cleared volcano, we full cleared sea, we full cleared pretty much all the key lock chests with the exception of marsh. We've full cleared ordeals, we full cleared waterfall. We're pretty much halfway through sky. We have yet to find a ribbon, unless I just really missed something.
No ribbons.
Yeah, so the fact that at least the fighter has elemental defenses against both fire and ice, at least one of our guys is going to be doing all right, especially because he's, I think, nearing level 30 at this point. So he's got a really, deep HP pool as well.
Slap that pro ring on.
Pro ring, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say slap that pro ring on. You got some death protection as well. That's not bad.
Nope. And then something else to keep in mind too is what you see Greg doing here. So doing the warp trick. So, for me, I like going right on Sky 3, doing warp and coming back and checking like top. Hey, speaking of ribbons, there's our first one. So yeah, so I'll check right side of Sky 3. I'll warp, because that saves me all the steps of walking back to the center. I'll check the top side. I'll warp back to the center. And then at this point, Greg hasn't checked Sky 2. I expect he'll go back and he'll clear the right-hand side of Sky 2. Prove me wrong, deciding he wants to check the greed chests first and hope the floater's over here. And it is not.
Yeah, that's just a convenience there with the way you want to do. The chest density on the 3rd floor is better. So if you check that after you've done like half of the Sky 2 floor just because it's along the path right there, then you can just kind of efficiently route it just in case it works out.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and that's something we've been seeing a lot of runners do, like you just said, clear one half of Sky 2, clears 3. If you find what you want, great. If you don't, at least you still have the other half of Sky 2 to clear. So that's what we're seeing now. These slimes just having heal, which
is more annoying than anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime you see like this low-level heal, or mobs that show up in a pack and they have things like A-lit or A-fire, you're just like, really, could you not? Especially when they ambush you, and you're just like, look, you're just wasting my time. All I can do is watch my timer run.
And that was a hugely time-waster pack.
Mm-hmm.
Gurmaduces are a great pack to find, especially when you get them in larger numbers and you're actually caring about levels.
Yeah, so speaking about caring about mobs, caring about anything, hey, look what's in this box on Sky 2. It's our floater.
Yeah, look at that. Look at that efficient routing right there. Let me tell you.
We did it. at the what's more than an hour and 2, because we didn't start Greg's timer until he was about half an hour into the seed.
Oh, no, it was about 5 minutes in.
Some half an hour.
You didn't take my timer? I'm an hour 6 minutes then, so.
See, there you go, only 3 minutes.
So an hour and 6, we find our floater, which coincidentally is our second loose. Greg's found a ribbon. I can't see him opening really any more boxes up. So we know where the defense sword is. We can kind of surmise where the moss is going to be at. So that gives us our endgame sword. We found a ribbon, which lets us keep a life caster alive. The only thing I can see him trying to do is he's going to want to prioritize doing floater than class change before he goes and dips into earth. And he's going to really hope that gets him a couple levels in order to get some spell charges so he can get some life magic on that fighter. So right, up.
Yeah, it's right up every time.
I hate to see it.
There's no other way to do it. Just rotate twice up, twice.
Up, left, up, left.
Well, yeah, go on ahead and get your bless RNGs out. Sure.
I normally do 3, but I'm just gonna give you 1 because I don't know, man. I can't.
I don't
can't
really
get
want
behind this right, up nonsense. Yeah, chat pointing out that if Gregley had listened early on when everybody in chat said sky, 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 he would have been in the air 30 minutes ago. I can't disagree with that anymore.
Yeah, except you're gonna totally full clear sky over checking like 4 incentive dungeons. Okay. But yeah, sky paying off with a ribbon, a fur ring, and some stuff. All right, what do
Bane
you got?
sword, floater, pro cape. Had a bunch of goods. Even had the opal bracelet on the very first floor for you. So
Fire armor. It was actually a pretty nice dungeon. And that's kind of the benefit of why most people go there, is because there's a lot of chests, so a lot of good stuff tends to just end up there by default.
yeah, so looks like we're going to be relying on some Bane strats, showing those off, hoping one of them lands. So far we're 0 for 3, while Deng the Thief does his best black belt impersonation, punches for 2 hits, 2 damage. Going back to Bane strats for round 2, throwing out a quad X. It's really cheeky because I don't know if we've done enough damage to Tiamat for quad X to do anything.
We've done anything. Oh, there you go.
But we're never going to see it because the Bane lands.
Thief gets some experience.
30 on most of his party.
Yeah, I was going for the cheeky clamp Bane quad X strat, just in case that Tiamat somehow managed to roll this and just drop the quad X.
So Greg's calling it a cheeky strat. I call it RNG manipulation. Because we all know if you hadn't thrown out that quad X, Bane wouldn't have landed.
Yeah.
So level 30 across the board, with the exception of that poor little thief. I'd say we're well ready level-wise for whatever Topher's going to throw at us. We've got a dragon armor, we've got a ribbon, we've got a couple pro capes, which don't do a whole lot. But looking back at it too, so we know we have to go to Gaia. We haven't seen, I believe it's fast yet. I think we said Temper was in level 6. So we still got some magic shopping to do. I'm not sure if we ever checked the Melmond armor shop. If we haven't, then we at least know pro rings are in 1 or 2 places. So we kind of have to go to both towns anyways. So if we really felt like it, we could pick up a pro ring for the fighter at this point, which I don't know if we will or not.
I mean, we may as well now because I found one.
True. So block 2, top slot of level 7 in Gaia. That is Red Wizard learnable, so he will have to promote for that. Both gold bracelets and pro rings here in Gaia. So that's something to go back to with the shop shuffle that we have on with these flags. So we're not adding new items into the shop pool. So we always know that gold bracelets, pro rings, steel armor, we know those will always be available in some shop somewhere. It just so happens tonight for this particular reveal seed that they both kind of showed up here in Gaia. So
fantastic.
Looks like Greg's gonna, work our way up here. So what do we got? We have the slab. So fetch quest, fetch quest, fetch quest. So what have we got to do here?
And of course, and absolutely, what I wanted. Just give me all of that.
Chat pointing out that you ignored the poor thief and definitely did not give him a gold bracelet when you easily could have with that giant wallet you're carrying around.
He could even use the katana you have.
Oh yeah, I guess I could. Oh no, I gotta do class change first, you fools.
Soon? You're gonna class change anyway.
So looking ahead though, so the reason Greg didn't buy a gold bracelet for the thief is because he's going to go ahead and equip the dragon armor on his fighter, and then he's going to give the flame armor to the thief. So he'll at least have some kind of armor and give him a little bit of elemental protection. So it looks like Greg's not feeling really comfy with just the one ribbon, so he's going to go ahead and pick up what the dragons are hoarding in their little treasure chest dens here tonight.
I'd like a second ribbon. You never know.
He is missing the Aegis as well, just in case he wants
that,
I'm
definitely not.
Yeah, we picked up the Aegis earlier. I believe that was going to be back in... Don't make me tell you where it was. It was early. I think it was Ice Cave.
Did I not mention I'm a terrible tracker?
It was not Ice Cave. It was the top left room in Volcano.
Right. Well, I'm glad you're paying attention to what you're running tonight, because I'm sure not.
And Reese was pointing out that yes, The dragons are trolling me. They do not want me to get to that one treasure chest with like 113 gold or whatever was in there.
It's their horde. They got to sleep on it.
So while Greg walks himself down to Bahamut to go ahead and turn in that rat's tail, which we've been carrying around for about 25 minutes now, I think it's coming up to room temperature, so now's the perfect time to turn it in. I would like to throw some props at the chat. So Jat2980 has joined us in chat. He is the one that we have to thank for renaming of the randomize button on the beta site. So for everyone who's getting confused on how the heck do I run this ROM, that's currently on the beta site. It now says generate ROM, like we talked about at the start of the broadcast. So you can give him your thanks and your kudos and anything else you want to throw his way, because I think that's a fantastic change that will really definitely help streamline things for our runners here, especially new runners in the community. I think a lot of people have been around for a while and know what to look for. But if you're just trying to get into the randomizer, that's going to make it a lot clearer for, okay, what button do I hit? Because randomize can really kind of go two ways when you're talking about a button in the middle of all your flags. So I think that's a great change. Jet, again, thank you for making that change. Super appreciated on your end.
Trying to think about all the things I'm trying to do here. Like, what exactly do I need to equip where?
I think you got it pretty much sorted out. At least you gave the poor little dang thief some armor to wear, a katana to wield.
And I've got plenty of levels on everybody else. May as well just get all the levels I need. Hey, St. Manchester, giving us the old raidy raid. You love it. You love to see it.
Yep, SVJ, one of the people in our community. He was our Cinderella story last year for spring tournament. He's definitely been a big part of helping raise up some duckies as well. For a while, he was doing some Let's Learn videos with FF Randomizer. He'd sit there, run a seed, kind of do what we're doing tonight, walk his way through it, talk about the choices that he was making. So really nice to see SVJ joining us tonight with his party of 17. Props to you. Thank you, sir. So Greg going back, doing some shopping, picking up some spells he couldn't quite learn earlier. Definitely picking up that wall spell. Lock, warp. See what else we're going to throw on the ninja tonight. And looks like that's it. So nice to remember that's there. I'm sure he'll also go through, if he hasn't already, he'll grab probably wall on his knight. I'm sure he's already gotten nuke on his ninja as well. So definitely good spells to be picking up. Going to do a little more housekeeping. Sure, he'll head up here. He'll grab life on his knight. So level 30, the nice thing about promoting at level 30, unless I misread his levels, is that as soon as Greg advances a level on his knight, he'll get one spell charge right away, because it's an odd level he's going into. So he doesn't have to worry about maybe getting 2 levels. I think going down into Earth Cave as our last dungeon, because it's kind of usually the first one, at least the vanilla game once you go into, the EXP levels for the mobs down there aren't super high. So unless he finds an amazing trap tile, he's probably not going to be able to get out of Earth Cave with maybe but 1 or 2 levels. And hopefully with going through Topher, 1 level and 1 charge of life is all he's going to need. Question in chat, is lock stackable? Yes. So if you have a fiend who rolls super high in evasion, every cast of lock takes down the fiend's evasion by a set amount. So while, say you have a fiend who rolls, I believe the randomizer max is 240 evasion, every cast of lock takes that down by a set amount. I believe it's 40. I'd have to look and double check my numbers. But more
40.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Greg. So 40 it is. So every cast of lock that you do takes off 40 evasion from that mob. So it's a flat number that it takes off, so absolutely it's stackable, and sometimes that's the only way to really get damage on a fiend if you have a very melee heavy party. I like that idea from chat. Too bad TNT wasn't a usable item that casts nuke once. Find yourself deciding that your TNT fetch quest you don't want to turn in. Hey, maybe I can use this just to chuck it at chaos and do some damage. I like it. All right, so we've got slab turned in. We know at this point the slab's going to be our loot, so we've got a little bit of a walk to go and turn in that. And got our last item we need in order to actually beat the game. Life 2 in that level 5 first slot, so that was going to be good for either the Red Mage pre-promotion, or obviously Red Wizard now he's promoted. So Life 2, Cure 4 on that Red Wizard. Definitely a really nice level 5 magic for him. Temper level 3, so kind of lucks out that we did our shopping after promoting, just because that Temper spell was going to be locked to promotion for both our Red and our Black Mage tonight.
Yep, Fast is level 6. I didn't pick it up, mainly because I knew I'd have to go back there anyway to get the heal 3 and any other spells I wanted to grab for my Red Mage. Plus, Fast wasn't going to really be useful when I was there, because I was pretty low level. I wasn't going to have enough levels to really cast Fast.
Yeah, and not only that, it's good routing sense right now, too. So we know we've got to, we ended up getting the slab. We knew we had to go to Melman to translate it, obviously, with Dr. Earth Cave is right here. So kind of like we talked about earlier, me personally, I like kind of knocking out things in quadrants if I can. So now that I have a reason to go to this quadrant of the map and actually delve into it, aside from just doing like the Ruby turn-in and checking Sarda and Titan, it's nice to be able to go into Earth Cave here because we're literally doing one thing. We're running down to Lich, we're letting the orb, and we're leaving. I guess it's 3 things. But after that, from a routing perspective, we know we have to go all the way to Lefane. Well, the quickest way to route to Lefane from Earth Cave is go west and see the Crescent Lake area and then go south. So what's in the middle there? Crescent Lake. Hey, we've got to go there anyways for Fast. So from a routing perspective, it makes sense. I'm not going to need Fast to kill Lich. I would hope not at level 31. And so just from a routing perspective, from a time save perspective, it makes sense to just kind of do that little shopping on the way. Question in chat, or really observation in chat, or I guess a hope from chat, that, they're waiting for the Duck Seed to troll you with Vanilla Fade and Nuke. I can tell you, it will not be Vanilla Fade or Nuke. Okay, it might be Vanilla Fade or Nuke. I haven't played that far into it, because I had a power failure while I was trying to run the Seed. But I think you'll be excited to see what the Seed throws at you when Greg posts it tomorrow. I'm sure you'll have a lot of things.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, we'll go up sometime tomorrow, tomorrow morning, probably around 10, somewhere between 10 and noon Eastern Daylight Savings Time tomorrow is when we'll throw it up. And I want to say, before I get into this Lich battle, that I really appreciate everybody going out and running the Duckling flag. All you Ducklings that are here watching this, I think we had 35 Ducklings run it, 33 Ducklings, somewhere in that general area.
Yeah, 33 Ducklings ran it last week, so.
Yeah, only one forfeit, and then a bunch of vets ran it too, including Crab Cakes, who put up a sub-hour on it. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, so it just shows you, I think the thing for me, personally speaking, my hope is that if and when I start running these Duck Seeds more often, I can actually stream it. It's hard for me to do it because I have a toddler in the house, so as soon as I load up my stream and pick up a controller, he wants to tell me how to play the game and grab my controller and do it for me.
Wait, was there a boss there?
I didn't tell you. I was talking about ducklings. The next thing I know, we're flying a crescent. So I think we're just going back to the lake at this point to pick up some more ducks and carry them on through the rest of the seeds. So, but yeah, it's nice to see. So if you're a duck, the biggest thing I advocated for when I was learning this game, and I still do to this day, when I run a seed, is I like to have a moment of just like, okay, what did I do right? What did I do wrong, or what can I do better after I ran this particular seed? And that's something I like to do with every seed that I run. It doesn't matter if it's just for a fun little practice seed. It doesn't matter if it's for like one of the Iron Gall matches that we do. It doesn't matter if it's even for the spring tournament matches that I've run in. I like to do that mental introspection because while I may not be able to go back and watch the VOD for my run right away necessarily, I at least have the run so fresh in my head. I can still kind of give myself some analysis on it. So that's something I would definitely suggest the Ducklings to do, is even if you don't stream your runs, if you have the computer's capacity, like, you have some hard drive space to spare, maybe if you're not running it on some antiquated machine, maybe just take a local recording of your run and watch it back later and just kind of do commentary for yourself. Sit there and say, hey, at this point in the seed, these are my options. I can do A, B, or C. And this is why I picked A. And maybe say, hey, A was the right call. Maybe another CGG, you can say, hey, I picked A, B, and C, and none of these were actually the right call. It was something I totally missed because I forgot to check an item shop.
Yeah,
so it's really nice to go back. Yeah, exactly. Loose fluttering sky. Who would have thunk it when the seed throws a cube and a chime at you early? So it's like it says, hey, you want to go here. But, it's nice to have that moment of introspection as, Greg sits here, lands his airship next to Temple of Fiends, and he's going to be hopping in at just over the hour 22 mark. So pretty good time for this particular flag set, I'd say. As soon as you start throwing more loose items at you with these flags, your time does go up a little bit. Burning off those houses.
Yeah, struggling to burn off those houses because Ale has told me that it's quicker to actually do A, to use the house, and then B, not to save, than it is to do just A over and over again, because then the save jingle happens, all that stuff.
Yeah, it's a little optimization. So
yeah, a little bit of optimization, especially if you I only had like 8 houses to burn off, but if you had a crap ton to burn off, then it saves you like a couple seconds or so. Which...
yeah, and that works even for if it's tents or cabins, depending on what you're burning off. So, but yeah, so going back to what we were talking about though is
Sorry.
Take that moment. No, you're fine, Greg. You're the runner. You tell me when you want to talk. I gotta say the floor to you, buddy.
Well, it's important to point out that he needed to get both the loot and the floater there, because that loot takes out that one slab, not floater, key. Loot and key there, and then right immediately after that loot slab, there's the key lock door that you might not even realize is a key lock door.
Yeah, you won't realize that's the key lock door until you get down there without the key, and you're like, why can't I get out of this 2-tile room? Oh, it's because for some reason this room is locked by the key, which would have never been a concern in the vanilla game. Hashtag thanks, Nasir.
It was probably there just in case you managed to find a way to clip your way through the game, and he just wanted to prevent you from being able to finish it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, so as Greg works his way here through the earth floor, hoping maybe there's nobody down here with any kind of nasty nonsense. Yeah, just take a moment after you run your seed, look back, say what you did right, say what you did wrong, say what you could have done better, say what you thought you did really well. And then maybe even share it in the Duckling spoiler chat once you finish running your duck seed. And you can kind of compare with the other people who have also run the duck seed, and that's how you're going to learn and grow with this particular game. So everybody has their own unique way of approaching the game, and it's better to have more options and learn that way than it is just say, I'm going to be stuck in my ways, I'm only doing it this way ever, because then you're not going to really go anywhere with it. So, speaking of not going anywhere, I think that was a Lich 2 kill. I'm not really sure.
Like a Lich 2 kill.
Yeah, I think he rolled pretty much close to that vanilla 100% number tonight, so he didn't really pose any problems whatsoever for your, what are you, level 70 something now?
Somewhere in the general area.
So I think we're like low 30s at this point. I think I saw a couple levels in Earth Cave. I know we have at least one spell charge on that night for life in case bad things happen. So I'd say level-wise, we're better, more than prepared for this particular Topher dive. All right, so carry 2, taking that 636 hit, really not caring about danging his poor little katana. Nuke finishing the job, so didn't look like Carrie rolled too much higher than Vanilla. Vanilla's 700, she rolled 900. Yeah, she's about halfway to 150.
Yeah.
So coming up in just a minute or so, we have probably one of the first true moments of, hey, I should probably have some strategy aside from fight nuke for a fiend kill. So we've got Kraken 2, so I'm gonna let Greg tell us what he's thinking his strats are for Kraken 2 based on the gear he has and the spells he has and his party comp.
I'm probably going to do standard evasion strats here, so I'm gonna move my defense sword to my knight and then make sure I have my white shirt somewhere that I kind of want it. Probably put it on my thief, maybe. And then, yeah, just go with it there. Get some evasion stacks on so that I can keep my knight specifically alive while I throw temper charges and fast charges out with my red and my black mage. And of course, well, you'll see what happens here in about 30 seconds.
So I like the plan. So going into this particular fight, we have life on both the knight and the red. So one of those two absolutely has to survive this fight because then they can bring up the other party members. Kraken not caring about that defense sword of that invis shirt. just saying, "Hey, Puff, I'm a smack you for not running a black belt." So Kraken doing Kraken things as to be expected. I mean, luckily we have Cure 4. We now have 3 evasion stacks on that night, so that big hit shouldn't happen again. It is nice that she decided to swing on you the first round, though, because it does kind of keep your other squishier party members alive, because I'm pretty sure if Kraken had swung on anybody else, they would have been probably on the floor. So let's see what we got. So we have a nuke going out. Kraken with paralyzed touch. That's not something you see very often. Can be problematic if it lands if you don't have the ability to get out of a lot of offense, because as soon as you're stunned, all those evasion stacks go out the window, and she can really put a wallop on you. So 647, final Masa swing coming out, knocking out Kraken 2, making some sushi for us tonight on Mother's Day. Dane just being really happy he lived with 3 HP.
Ooh, the rare encounter fight right here.
Yep.
Is it really a rare encounter, though? Because now that the encounter 8's been fixed, I think this pack shows up an awful lot.
Yeah, but for a long time there, we weren't seeing it at all.
Oh,
Yeah.
Absolutely not. This was like Gasties and Waterfall. You heard rumors that they might be there, but you could never find one.
That's what they say anyway. All right, if I had a black belt, I would be hitting for a lot of damage.
You're already hitting for a lot of damage.
I'm just saying, I just got the level 32 off that belt, all right? All right, let's do this thing.
For a duckling seed, that is sick.
I mean, look, this is just Greg showing us he really wanted a black belt, because at this point his black belt would have been just properly set at level 32.
Play it safe here. Oh, I'm going to throw fast on the wrong character. Oh no, this is bad news.
All right, so we got a white shirt going out. We got a defense sword going out. We got let's see what we doing here. Nuke, and then we're gonna fast the red mage because they got that sword and it might do something. Oh, and it might work out because that knight's dead from crack.
Yeah. Okay, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? What do I do?
So let's talk about this for a moment. While Greg figures out what he's gonna do, his red mage is totally safe because he has that ribbon on. It may have been a consideration for some runners to switch that ribbon over at this point to their knight because that's where a lot of your DPS is going to come from. But you've got a lot of nuke charges, so that shouldn't be a big problem until we start wasting walls on dead bodies.
Yeah. Yeah, you hate to see that.
That corpse is not going anywhere now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, all right. Sunsword strats, 5 hits, 5 damage. I think if I'm Greg, I'm going back to nuke strats.
Yeah, probably not a bad idea.
I mean, because we've got to hope our nukes can get through T-Mod too, because if we run out of nukes and we're swinging for 5 hits, 5 damage, we're opening up ourselves up to a lot of pain, and that's not something you necessarily want to do with Tia 2, so... Throwing out that cheeky Quad X, hoping that this nuke goes first. Maybe does enough damage on Tia to knock him out.
Nice.
And there we go. So Quad X, we talked about it at the start, making use of it with clamps. And it only took us an hour and a half to actually use it on a fiend. Aside from Tia 1, but, we won't talk about that. So, all right, so we're going to heal pot up. Heals in that first column make it really easy to use. Press up, press A, and then just target your party member. So a lot easier to heal pot from that first column than it is from the second or the third. One less key press, a lot less room for error. Yeah, chat pointing out, they love that Puff's healing before moving. So at this deep in the encounter table, you don't know where you're at. The last thing you want to do is throw the life charges on your dead people, take a step, and then get whacked. So definitely a really smart play. If you have to, heal up after a fiend fight, do it before you move. Don't risk your run at this point, especially not right after Tia 2. All right, so Greg doing some last-minute maintenance, gonna shift a couple things around. He's got that ribbon on that fighter. I'm sorry, that knight now. And we're gonna see what Chaos has for us tonight. So going a little defensive. We got that white shirt from the ninja going out. Temper from the red mage. I believe it was a fast from the black mage, and then a fast and a power bonk. And oh look, he has got damage poison. How exciting.
Chaos, you mean?
Yes, Chaos, I'm sorry. I'm still stuck on the Tia 1 Quad X thing.
There goes that.
All right, so Temper's still throwing up some power for the night. We've got 2 evasion sacks on the party now. 8 hits, 576. Tia's got Thunder, so he's 2 rounds in. He's used 2 skills, so I'm thinking he might be a little skill happy tonight. So I'm definitely leaning towards swinging for the fences if I'm Greg.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing is with that Black Mage taking dirt now, he's lost the last 3 or 4 temper charges he had left.
Mm-hmm. Dang taking one for the team after casting his Ninja Nuke for 98 damage, I think it was.
Oh!
Oh no! Nuclear Chaos!
He could still
So
survive this.
I believe we're right around vanilla HP damage at this point. Or just under, I should say, after that 1,000 hit. So,
Ooh.
Second shot, 1443 does it.
The winner is
So-
you.
GG, Mr.
The
Puff.
winner is me.
So yeah, so a little bit of a dangerous Chaos for only having 1 ribbon and not having the ability to get those Walsh casts off early. So all our mages kind of squishy. Our poor little Dang Ninja kind of squishy. Hey, at least Puff got out of the fight alive. So
Yeah. I definitely could have probably conserved my spell charges a little better, had a Cure 4, had a, more heal 3s. I mean, it sucks to have the Cure 4, the Life 2, and the Temper all be on the same spell charge for my Red Mage. So, and man, I'm looking at you'll see how many chests I opened up here in just a little bit. I opened up probably close to 200 chests, even though it says 160, I'll reset out of a few of them. So the fact that we only had 1 ribbon is pretty incredible, to say the least. I'm assuming all the ribbons were in March Cave.
yeah, because I mean we checked Volcano, Ice, Ordeals, Waterfall, Sea, and Sky.
Yep.
The only
And
dungeons
Cardia.
we didn't check, and Cardia. So the only dungeons we didn't check tonight were going to be Earth Cave and then Marsh. So
Yeah.
2 ribbons landing between the 2, or I guess technically there's a couple boxes in Temple of Fiends Revisited. Yeah, it's kind of unusual that you would have that happen, especially with opening as many boxes as we did.
Mhm.
It kind of worked out. Getting all those levels, I think, definitely saved the run because of that skill happy Tia. Yeah, I think it worked out pretty well though.
Yeah, that definitely would have been a pretty. I mean, obviously there were ways you could have gotten around that Topher, better turn order. But yeah, like you said, or moving my ribbon specifically over to my fighter, so he wouldn't have gotten cracked. Getting cracked definitely didn't help. Luckily, Tia kind of rolled on the lower side. If Tia had, close to that 2200 or 2250 that she could have rolled, it would have gotten really ugly real quick. Overall, I thought that was pretty good. I was good to see a seed where both loose are required, so we could talk about routing and what makes the most sense as far as routing is concerned. I don't think I would have done anything different. I might have full cleared. I don't know if I would have, if I had done Ordeals and Waterfall and then got the Defense Sword, I'm sure I would have probably full cleared Ice and then Volcano anyway. So I don't really see a situation where I would have gone Sky before checking those incentive locations to find that loose floater.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is with the way the key items fell early in the seed, you had enough kind of fetch quests to follow where it kind of pushed you away from gambling on there being a loose item in Marsh. And looking back on it, we know there wasn't. So it was a good play to avoid that because, Marsh can be one of those early traps. There's a lot of enemy variance down there, a lot of variety between the enemy formations. They always tend to, at least in the seeds I run, roll something nasty on at least one of the mobs down there.
Mhm.
So, for all we know, we may have just missed out on nothing down there. We may have missed out on 2 ribbons in the same room. Who knows? But that's just something to kind of look at. It's, play what the seed is giving you. Don't necessarily try to play the seed and outsmart the seed because, the seed is kind of set in stone from the moment you hit randomize. It's one of those things, take what you want from your gambles, figure out what has your greatest odds of giving you something, and make the play. And if you're really feeling cheeky, yeah, make the gamble, but just realize, hey, every gamble you make, if it pays off, fantastic. You probably just shaved a couple minutes off your time, but if it doesn't, and if you're in a race setting, that's minutes you're conceding back to your opponent. So it's nice to be able to take these seeds where you have a couple loose, especially where they become required loose on both of them, like Greg said, and see what you can make of it. So,
Yeah. I think overall, like, I can't complain about my routing. Obviously, you can save a lot of time having the early warp, early exit, early nuke. You know, being able to warp around and exit around and do stuff like that does make things a lot easier.
Yeah, exactly. Do you have any kind of like, I hate to call it final thoughts because we're stealing something from like you post race interviews and everything, but
Yeah.
looking ahead for the seed that we'll be posting for the Ducks tomorrow, looking at the flags tonight, you have any particular like final thoughts or anything like you want to highlight for the Ducks to be on the lookout based on the feedback we've gotten over the last week?
Yeah, I mean, the main thing, definitely, you know, obviously look over the flags, make sure you're reading them properly, and you see what's available. Don't sleep on the defense sword and the power bonk, especially with clamp buses, because it's not only clamp HP, but it is also clamp hit percentage, hit, and of course absorb as well. So you know everything gets clamped, so it will hit harder than normal, and you know they may have a better chance of critting as well, and have more hits. So you know that's kind of why we put the defense sword and the power bonk in the incentive pool to begin with, is just so you'll have a little bit more options dealing with with clamp bosses. Again, you know the clamp isn't high; it's only 150, but still, you know, they're not going to go low. You know, they're not going to roll low. They're always going to roll over vanilla HP. So, but yeah, I mean, other than that, like I don't really have anything else to say about it. Just hopefully you guys enjoyed the run. Hopefully Ale taught you guys a lot about the flags and the run and the seed that you guys will be seeing tomorrow. And hopefully you guys will run it. And you know, coming up in the future, probably sometime after our new admins get elected, we will have all the information for the Duckling Derby that will happen at the end of June. So we will have all the flags out there, we'll have all the rules, and we'll have you know, a survey basically trying to figure out what days work best for everybody, and the point system and all that stuff. So everything will be available. It'll just be, you know, it'll be sometime after the admin election, just so we can make sure that we run all the information by the new admins before we throw everything out there.
Yep, exactly. And then just to kind of piggyback off what Greg said, I think my biggest takeaway for people going into week 2, I think the biggest point of confusion was just looking and seeing, you know, what shows up as the items whenever you're running these particular flags. So take a minute before you just, you know, before you randomize your seed, generate your ROM, and just jump right into it. Take a minute to look at, like, especially that treasures and incentives tab on the randomizer site itself, and just kind of familiarize yourself with the items that are listed underneath that items column. So there's 21 items listed over there. If you ever see any of them come out of a box, you know that's a loose item. If you ever see a second one come out of a box, you know that's your 2 loose items. And in these particular flags, you know you can only have 2 loose. So at that point, just kind of keep those things in your mind when you're running through the seed. You know, that's something that you can really kind of do to help make and break a race. That also kind of helps break you out of your comfort zone, depending on, you know, if and when you find both loose items. So I think that's kind of the biggest thing I have to say, just going forward with it, is just keep an eye out for what those loose items are. If you find them in a box, hey, just make a mental note or write it down or however you want to make track of it. So
Awesome. Well, I guess that's it. Darkmoon, take us out.
I want to thank our broadcast partner, Randomania, for hosting us tonight and letting us do this Duckling showcase. If you're interested in what you're watching, want to come participate, aren't already part of the Discord, you can find all of that and more at FinalFantasyRandomizer.com. Check out the randomizer, check out the game, come join the Discord and be a part of this whole community. Also want to make special note that if the music that we've been playing in the background started off with tracks from Greg Puff's own band that he has with Twinstrumental. I think you've been calling it Dan the Thief. And then we also have a bunch of background music that we've been using from OCRemix.com with their blessing. Thank you to everyone for all of that. And with that, we're going to shut it down right now, and we will see you again next week. Make sure you check everything out, come back week to week, and hopefully we'll see you as part of the Duckling Derby coming up in another 7 weeks. Until next time, we will see you later.